hear your shark stories first, but anything, and just with these two knuckleheads,
Yeah.
I know you're gonna have some stories.
We don't even know what we're about to talk about.
Well, I did
Okay.
send them a link, but they don't know.
Well, he said sharks, and I just looked at the link and went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, whatever.
All right. Well, here we go. We're getting started right now.
Okay, I'm excited.
Welcome into the Bite Me podcast, and it is going to be a good one. First of all, I'm glad that we're starting at 5 p.m. today instead of 2:30, because I would have had no attention span from Dean Thomas and Captain Scott Knoll, or actually, to be honest, myself. We're delaying it till 5 p.m. today. We'll post it as soon as we can because we were watching the Astros, and it was a great game. Didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was a great game. I am John Lopez. I mentioned Captain Dean Thomas. I mentioned Captain Scott Knoll, and we are always happy when we can get Captain Mark Nichols on with us from DOA Lures, who made the long trek from Florida down to the Feeding Frenzy and was a big hit there. In fact, some of our commenters are mentioning that right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We are recording live, but I will post this as soon as we are done and I'm done editing tonight. So it'll probably be about 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock or so. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, on Podbean, on iTunes, on Spotify, or anywhere else. And of course, the Bite Me group page is a great forum for almost 10,500 loyal Bite Me listeners, and we get a lot of topics right there. But let's not bury the lead, man. Let's get started. I sent everybody some topics. I got them right here in my hot little hand. And I am going to start with Mark Nichols because, Mark, first of all, thanks again for coming down.
I didn't look at the topics either.
Of course, nobody does. That means you're going to fit right in. That means that means you're going to fit right in with the regular crowd here. But I was chatting with you, well, one of several times at the Feeding Frenzy a couple of weeks ago, and you told a couple of shark stories, and I hope you can remember them because I don't quite remember the gist of how the conversation began. But I said, you know what? I know Captain Dean and Captain Scott have some stories as well. But what was the one? Do you remember what the one was? And we're going to do shark stories. We're going to do all kinds of topics today, and glad to have you on.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to make up something because I don't remember what I told you. That was what, over a week ago, right?
Yeah, that was over a week ago. That's asking too much.
Yeah, you're really stretching it.
I want to say one of your buddies was reaching down to grab a fish or something.
Oh, no, that was me. Was reaching down to grab a snook, about a 15-pound fish.
Yeah.
And if you're an old fart like me, you would know a guy named Terry Shaughnessy. And Terry was kind of started Hackberry Rod and Gun in Hackberry, Louisiana, home of places that have killed more fish than you can imagine. But,
but that's another story.
That's another story altogether.
Yeah.
But he was fishing with me down in our inlet, him and his son. And we were kind of crushing the fish. And we caught a fish that was about 15 pounds. And I, reached down and lifted it, and I've got a good grip on it, and I'm getting ready to lift it up. And all of a sudden, there's a fish, bites my fish in half and doesn't take it out of my hand. And and Terry's like, he's like, holy, you know what? And, and then drop it back down. He's like, put your hand back in the water. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? But yeah, I didn't think that was really, we decided it wasn't appropriate. But there were times, when you got the right moon where you catch a couple of fish and then you leave because the sharks are going to eat every fish you catch.
Yeah.
You don't need to feed the sharks. But it's, that was a pretty good one. The other one was, I was, born in Texas, therefore you're required to wade fish, so I did. And I always loved it, and then I moved here and I loved wade fishing here, but I've seen so many big sharks that I just don't ever had a stringer.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to kill a fish, I'd walk it back to the boat and put it in the cooler.
Yeah.
And, one day we were fishing and we didn't have any fish on a stringer because we didn't have any fish. And we had just finished this tournament. It was awesome. And we decided we'd try to catch a trout or two for dinner. And we weren't catching anything. The water was super clear on a high tide. And where we were, it was really beautiful clear. And so we see a pair of dorsal fins on going over the bars. So we're going, let's go check let's go check out the shark up on the skinny water. And turned out it was a gigantic bull shark, and we were looking at a dorsal and tail. And it turned on us when we started kind of walking pretty quick toward it. And in the process, I've been around a lot of sharks. I've done shark dives where you chum them up to you, and I've pushed them out of the way when I've been diving trying to get to a grouper. But this shark never turned. It kept coming straight on us, and I was to the point of trying to figure out how I was going to leapfrog over this giant freaking bull shark. And I was like belly deep, so I'm trying to figure out the logistics of getting my gonads over its dorsal. In the process, we yelled at my buddy who was sleeping in the boat. He had already won this 4-pound tournament. He caught a 22-pound snook on 4.
Wow.
And so we knew he had won. So we were just out meat fishing, and we see this thing, and it's like coming right at us. And the buddy I'm with, he's a serious surfer from Australia, and he's freaking out, and I'm going, you're not supposed to freak out. You're supposed to think, oh, it's just another little shark. And literally I yelled at my buddy. I said, get the boat over here. It was aground, but he throttled and threw a giant rooster tail, and the shark turned and knocked both of us over.
Whoa, wow.
It was literally like 2 to 3 feet when it started to turn. And this is no lie. I swear I didn't walk. Yeah, I waited maybe nothing over calf deep for about a year.
I believe it.
It scared the dog doo out of me because
it would have literally scared it out of me. That's for sure.
Dang, it scared him off the screen.
Yeah, but the other thing, Dean and Scott, I want to hear y'all's. It would have. Mark is back now. It would have literally scared it out of me, Mark. There's no question about that.
It was freaky to look at the shark. It's as white as you are, and it's coming at you, and it's not doing circles like I've done many times. But I poked them on the nose on more than one occasion where, you're walking at a tide. They think you're a stingray, so they're coming up into the sand and smelling, but at least you're looking at them, and you're more in like knee or thigh deep water where you can at least hit them on the butt of the rod with your rod.
But, I feel so inadequate, Scott, because the nearest shark experience I've had over the years was a stringer thing, where I kind of felt it and hit it, and then I was walking on water to get back to the boat. But that's the extent of I didn't have any near misses like that where they're giant bull sharks bumping into me or anything, and I'm popping them on the nose. But what about you guys? We'll start with you, Scott.
I've had a lot of them over the years, man. Probably the closest was kayak fishing off of Galveston, and went out there catching kingfish off the seawall. And we were probably 2-3 miles out, just trolling around out there and popping kingfish one after another. And then the sharks decided to join the party. And the first one that joined in, the way we were landing the kings, we're not out there killing them, so we're just grabbing them by the tail.
Yeah.
You grab a kingfish by the tail, you hold it straight up, it kind of paralyzes it. You can get your hook out, shoot him back in the water. And I was reaching down to do that, and bull shark came out from underneath the kayak. I never saw him coming, and he came out from underneath it and cut my kingfish in half and left me with, I don't know, about 12 inches of tail.
Good
That
Lord.
was about it. And it was a big bull. But I've had quite a few of them come at it like that, but I've never had one actually get one until that.
Yeah.
I watch it all the time on the beachfront because I hand grab all those jacks and the harpoon and everything.
Right.
And they're always lurking. I look down and I watch before I'll start reaching in there, and I'll see the shadows, and they're around.
They're around. But Dean, the thing is, like what Scott said, is like you get to a comfort level, even though he was watching, and then all of a sudden they come out of nowhere. What about you?
Yeah, that was like Mark said about wade fishing. That gives you a fond memory that you never forget.
I don't know about
that. Was another one where I was just wading along, minding my own business. It was over on Super Flats on St. Joe Shoreline, and this was actually just last summer, where I'm walking along, And the guys that I was with were wading up shallow on the shoreline. So I just kind of gravitated out to the edge and was about waist deep water, just la-di-da in my own little happy world. And out of the corner of my eye, I noticed this shadowy creature coming at me and turned around. And I mean, it was a fairly large shark, probably in the 4-foot range. And I think, it was just incidental contact. He's coming my direction, and we both kind of noticed each other at the same time.
Mhm.
And right as it was about to get sketchy, Mr. Jaws just takes a turn and started swimming out ahead of me, and just casually went his direction, and I way less than casually went the other direction, back up to the shallows.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the heat of summer, I mean, we get some big cruising sharks. This summer, we've seen quite a few of them from the boat, which they're always quite a novelty item from the safety of the boat.
Of the boat, it's great. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Take out your camera, we're taking pictures. Woo, look at the shark.
Yeah,
but yeah,
if you're
man.
waiting-
And that one probably got within 6 or 8 feet of me before it turned. So
yeah,
I mean, it was very close, but
we really
nobody
haven't talked
made
about
any
this.
sudden moves.
Yeah.
I choked him on poopy smell, and he swam away.
Where'd that poopy smell come from?
I'm not sure, but I was just glad it was there.
Yeah.
There's something we've learned about them where we fish them, where we fish for pompano.
Mhm.
We like sight cast pompano. If you've got a big shark, pompano will cruise with it all day long. You get a 4-foot shark where it can turn around and touch its tail.
Yeah.
Those pompano don't stick around them much. They get caught every once in a while, but
Yeah.
big sharks make for pompano love cruising with them.
Well, you know, Mark,
I didn't.
it's good.
I was just like a pompano. I didn't stick around either, and it was just about long enough to reach its own tail, I believe.
Yeah. So you were the pompano. But here's the thing, Mark. Like, it's like that old Mike Tyson line. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. You know. And so, like, everybody has a plan. Okay, if I see a shark, if I have an encounter with a shark, I'm not going to panic like you were talking about. I'm not going to make the sudden movements. I'll just kind of go the other way. Maybe pop him in the nose if he gets too close. That all sounds well and good. But I guarantee you, I ain't going to do that. I'm going to walk on water like I did that one time.
I know when I was like in the 70s and I was traveling in the Rockies, I was up in Montana, and they've got, you're reading the bear story, and it says, if you're in the jaws of a bear, speak calmly to him. Like, yeah, right, buddy. I'll work on that one. There's certain things you're just not going to be a reflex.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Scott. I thought you had something.
Now, Chandelier Islands, man. Anybody that's ever been to the Chandeliers knows. Mark's shaking his head. That is one of the sharkiest places I've ever been in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's why the redfish pull hard, because they're used to having to run from those damn things all the time. They're everywhere.
Camille's back here. Camille's back here saying, tell them what you did to me.
Oh, no.
We were one of those little 14-foot skiffs, and we were having a blast. We were catching trout every cast. I mean, it was just on. We were in one of the little cuts, just parked, throwing topwaters. And I had my little 50 MG back when Shimano was making those. And I was just having a good time. She's at the front of the boat, and I'm in the back. We're anchored up. And I look past her towards the front of the boat, and here comes this big bull shark. I didn't realize it was that big. I thought it was a smaller shark like we'd been seeing. And I said, watch this. This will be funny. And I'm going to tease him a little bit, see what he does. And I threw my topwater over there to him, my little Spook Junior, and I start working it. Well, it got his attention. And as he started getting his attention, he started coming up more. And what I'd been seeing was just the top tip of a very large shark. And as he got closer to the boat, I started working a little faster, trying, this is not good. And I just start reeling, working it, just start reeling. And right at the bow of the boat, close enough to splash her, Jaws opens up and takes my Spook Junior right next to the boat. It waked the boat.
Oh, man.
And then spun and took off and took every bit of my line off my little 50 MG in a matter of seconds. And all she said was, "That serves you right."
Yeah, putting me in this situation. What is there such a thing, Dean? I'll start with you, then and then go to Mark. As sharkier waters, or is it just seasonal?
Both.
Yeah,
I mean, but here they love the heat of summer. I mean, we see them when it's as hot as it's going to get. And then, of course, if you're around the passes, near the channels, the things that connect to the Gulf, there's always going to be more there. But every place, of course, the Chandelier Islands, they stick out there in the Gulf, these little islands that poke up. So, I mean, it's a lot of both. Depends on where you're at. And some places, South Florida, they live there all year long, guaranteed. Over here, they tend to be more seasonal and closer to the passes where you find the big ones.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go to you the second, Mark, because that does seem, my experiences anyway, you're neck deep in them over there, just everywhere.
We've got, there's definitely arguments about having too much protection on some sharks in different areas. Because again, you're always trying to find some balance, and when we try to find a balance, it virtually never works. You can't protect one thing and not expect it to have some kind of repercussions somewhere else. And we've got the bull shark barge that we go fish. It's just outside our inlet, and we fish for cobia there because you'll cast out. Basically you go out and you catch yourself a bonita, and you slice them up, put them about 8 feet behind the boat, and wait. You're in about 40 feet of water, and then the bull sharks start coming up to eat the bonita. And so you wait, and sometimes the first one that'll come up, he'll have three ling cobia, whatever you want to call them, right with them, and they'll come up 10 feet from the boat, and they will. I'd flip the shrimp in their faces numerous times, and they eat it instantly.
Yeah.
And you're watching them eat it because they're right there behind the boat following the sharks.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll have a dozen sharks, you'll never see one. But almost every time, if you get enough sharks coming up, you'll have cobia following it.
Well, there you go. That's part of what our listeners like to learn. I do got to share a story with you that I just thought about because behind my screen, my wife Jan walked in to put something in the refrigerator out here. And last night, okay, Mark might not know the whole story. So, I've been fishing 50 whatever years, in some form or another. And she, over the last 30, boy, how long have we been married? Anyway, 30 whatever years that we've been married, she would go out on the boat with me, but not really fish. Fishing wasn't her thing. She liked to look and everything. And about 2 years ago, took her out and she caught some kings and that hooked her. And now she's in quest of redfish and she's caught a bunch of trout and everything. I walked into the living room last night. She's reading Tide magazine. And I'm like, this is how far you've gotten into the sickness. She goes, well, they're doing a thing on top 3 lures that each guide. I don't know if y'all have gotten your Tide magazine yet. Top 3 lures that each guide would want to throw if they could only throw 3 lures. She goes, you said you're going to have that Mr. Nick. She called you Mr. Nichols. You said you're going to have Mr. Nichols on tomorrow, right? Ask him. I bet he has a good answer for this. I said, man, you are beyond repair. I said, you are beyond. She didn't fish for 50 years, and now she's freaking Jimmy Houston.
It's all over it. It's social media. She can spend a lifetime now watching a bunch of BS with a little bit of truth scattered in there, just enough to keep you confused.
So just to be fair, to tell her that I asked you, your 3 that you would throw, you're coming down to Aransas Pass, our area down here. You can only throw three lures.
So does she not listen to the podcast? Does she not
occasionally listen? She does. Occasionally she does.
There were thoughts in my mind, the same question, I just saying that,
She knows us. If she has a question, she'll ask Dean or Scott. And now she wants me to ask you a question.
It's like we have to sit down and talk. Tell her
we need an intervention.
Talk, because if I'm, I was nice enough. Dano and his sweetheart April let me stay in their trailer over there, Aransas Pass, and I walked out there behind their house. And when we were first fishing, they were out fishing me, and I finally started snapping the bait more aggressively, and it started catching fish real well. And but it comes down to yeah, it's pretty funny where you can go into somebody else's backyard and they're catching and you're not. And you're like, now, come on, I know how to do this. You know, I can do this. And then, you know, after they both caught, you know, 4 or 5 fish, she finally literally was, I mean, it's pretty darn humorous, actually. I'm walking along and I've had 1 strike and they've already caught a few fish. And like I'm standing walking around this little kind of little submerged island and I look in this little pothole and here comes up this little like 22-inch redfish that's up there and it's like staring at me. I'm like, oh, there. Okay, you do live here. And shortly after I started catching them, but I got pissed. And you can't be doing that to me. But you know, if I go down there if I'm fishing wading, then I'm going to be. First of all, that's why I guess we're going to have to write a book on it. Mm-hmm. You know, if I can find a place where I've got good moving water where I can let my bait sweep, I'd love to throw my shrimp. But if I'm just broadcasting while I'm waiting, you know, then I'm going to a lot of times throw like a 1/8 ounce jig with a small jerk bait or a shad. And I find that, you know, some people will swear jerk baits are the best in the world and shads are terrible. And then other people will swear just the opposite. And I'll know both people that are real good anglers that can catch fish. And it's like, to me, a lot of times it's whatever's in your brain, you know, as far as that particular part goes. You guys got something to say about that? I'm watching Dean go up.
Well, just like you said, you can ask 5 people and get 5 answers.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. That's why I always, when I'm giving my opinion on here or sounding very opinionated, I usually start with, you're going to find 9 out of 10 people that will argue this fact. It's just an opinion. But I mean, it's based on experience. It's based on confidence. You know, of course, I'm going to tell you that the 3 best lures to fish with are the ones that I've caught the most fish on. You know, and somebody else could have a completely different opinion. And it's because I throw topwaters all the time. What do you expect me to say? Topwater. And then there's going to be somebody that just loves to throw paddle tails and plastics, soft plastics. And they're going to tell you, you know, well, this is the way to go. So, I mean, that's part of the fun of this game is thinking that there are 3 best lures.
Yeah. I just think that we're burying the lead here. I walked into the room and she's reading Tide magazine. I mean,
hey man, look, that's the normal progression of the addiction. The next thing she's going to be doing is she's going to be sneaking fishing poles in the back door, then hiding the receipt from you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Scott, she needs to start throwing that gold spoon somewhere. Then it'll be a lock.
You just got to keep her away from Camille and her Stellas.
Yeah. Oh, the reels. Yes.
Oh,
Camille's already telling me in the background she needs a Stella. She needs a Stella.
Yeah.
right.
Well,
You got a loan payment going on that? Or?
yeah, that's a reel you have to finance.
Yeah, exactly.
They check your credit first thing, and
check your credit.
Sorry, you can't have one. Sorry.
So Mark, you can stay on the podcast as long as you want. Just let me know on the private chat if you need to go. But I do want to have you on here. And first of all, just ask you obviously in Florida, you're not on the ugly side of where Helene was, but I'm sure. Yeah. But what are you seeing? What are you hearing? And especially,
I've got really close friends, and there's unfortunately, you know, I've got close friends that are finally digging out from, you know, from whatever whatever the other one was, and Fort Myers and all that area, and they still got under 4 feet of water all the way down there, went all the way up the West Coast. You know, little towns like Cedar Key and places that I've been to many times just virtually don't exist. You know, up there. It had a huge storm surge, and there ain't nothing that stops the water there. And so, you know, and then today, you know, a buddy of mine from North Carolina, Dave Stewart's down here. We fished today, and the asshole hooked, you know, 2 tarpon right in front of me.
He's got some nerve.
Other than that, yeah, I know. But we ended up, we were on the phone with one of his buddies that lives up in North Carolina in the mountains. And they just got like 2/3 of a lane of one highway that they can get out on, that they should have 3 highways to be able to get out on. And all he's been doing is shuttling old people that need help to the hospital.
Yeah.
And chainsawing all the time. He said he can't imagine how long it will take to rebuild some of those roads on the mountainsides.
Yeah.
Because there's some serious switchbacks and stuff over there. It ain't going to fix that overnight.
Yeah.
It's terrible for a whole lot of places.
Yeah. Scott, you obviously have friends all over. You keep up with this better than most people that I know. I hate to be insensitive here, but all of us are starting to think not just immediately safety, hope, and as Mark was talking about, that they rebuild and that it gets redone. But there is just the devastation of the fisheries, of the wildlife. I mean, what are you thinking and hearing maybe? I mean, it's devastating. It's bad.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
didn't get much worse than what it did. I mean, you look at the track that it took. That was the worst case scenario for that whole west coast of Florida.
Right.
And I was watching it as it went up, and Cedar Key, I kept watching for the storm surge over there, and I saw it going up, and it got to 13.9, and the tide gauge went out. And when the tide gauge goes out during a storm, it's like, it's bad. It's really, really bad now.
Really bad.
And
yeah, they've got some interesting, like their 8x8 post. First time I ever went there, it's 30 some odd years ago. And this post like is going up in the air, and it's got, green and then yellow and then red. And you're looking up there, and the red is like above all the houses I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And that's, storm surge level, that you're looking at, and you're going, holy cow.
Yeah.
And, you want to go somewhere else.
What about Dean? Go ahead.
So, I mean, I can tell
that had 19.5 feet was what he marked.
Yeah. And I feel the pain of everybody over there. If you remember, it wasn't that many years ago,
right?
About 7 years ago, that Hurricane Harvey crossed over Rockport and Aransas Pass.
Right.
170 mile an hour sustained winds for 4 hours. Our little towns got completely bulldozed to the ground.
Right.
I've seen it. I've lived through it. I witnessed people walking out of their houses in total shock afterwards. Storm surge in the street. Scott came over, helped me clean up my house that was broken and leaning over. So they're looking at 5 to 7 years is what it takes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what it took us here. And the first 2 years were just like the day after. I mean, it took that long. I mean, it was just people bulldozing their houses, pushing them out to the street. It was months and months of, the cherry picker trucks coming down with dumpsters, scooping up people's entire houses that they just bulldozed to the street.
Right.
And that is, I mean, it's sad. I see the pictures, and it's like you kind of relive the whole thing all over again.
Oh yeah.
See the
PTSD.
We got if y'all want to follow along, Jason Stock, he's over in Tampa, St. Petersburg area. He has been posting videos for the last 48 hours of driving around in his boat, videoing a lot of stuff. So the day after the storm hit here, my boat was on the trailer, and by some miracle, it sat in the driveway and had a tree on every side of it. It did not get smashed. I put my boat in the water. We were driving around before the emergency crews got here. There were tugboats, complete giant tugboats sunk in the middle of the channel that had no buoys, no markers. No one had been there yet. That is exactly what they're finding as they're running around. Sailboats piled up on the causeway between Aransas Pass and Port Aransas. I mean, there were boats on the road, the jetties. It was just piled up. So watching his videos is just like reliving Harvey all over again. I mean, I do seriously feel for those people, but they've got to be in it for the long haul, man. You're looking at 5 to 7 years before they're even close to back to normal. It's a long-term project.
What about, and any of y'all can jump in here, but what about, as Dean has been such an advocate and really trying to, make people aware and rebuilding like the vegetation, the shorelines, the dunes, the everything. I mean, it's going to be almost unrecognizable down there, Mark, isn't it?
Don't think none of that's going to be the same.
Yeah.
And as in so many places, that thing comes in where there's some houses that have been sitting there for 50, 70 years, and they're wood frame old houses, and they got termites in them, and they're just waiting for something bad to happen. And then I know people that are in pretty darn new houses, but they still had 4 feet of water in their place, so it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't blow down, but it's still, their house is trashed.
Yeah.
So I think what Dean is talking about is absolutely true, but the uniqueness of this storm is kind of like we're talking about how broad of area it happened. Like if a storm came in, if I lived on the Texas coast, storm comes into Rockport, I'm going to go, hey Dean, what do we need? I've got a generator. You want me to bring some lumber, whatever. But suddenly if it runs 200 miles up a coast and then another 250 or 300 miles inshore and trashes stuff, I'm not sure who can help who.
No, that's a great point.
And that was interesting the way that all happened, because we unfortunately took the bullseye, and I had friends from down south that had been through hurricanes. I had friends from the north that had been through it. They all came swarming in with help. The guys from Dargle Boats, man, they loaded up their trailer with 2 generators and like 4 pallets of water, delivered it to my driveway the very next day. I mean, they pushed their way through the debris to get there. So, yeah, I mean, that it was. And then in the long-term aftermath, the army of volunteers that came here, the Samaritan's Purse, there was another one, All Hands or Helping Hands or something like that, where these volunteer groups just came through town like a little small army. They would just come up they go down the start at one end of the street, go from yard to yard with chainsaws, cutting debris, piling it on the road. The National Guard set up with food, water and stuff. The really weird thing about the day after the hurricane, so we left. We drove out of town for, it was less than 24 hours. As soon as the storm passed, I drove back in because I didn't want to get blocked out. I figured the DPS and such would be setting up roadblocks. And when I passed through Corpus Christi, the DPS was staged. They were everywhere. I made it past them. When I came to town, I thought there were going to be news crews. I was expecting all of this excitement. When I pulled into town, it was this eerie, deserted silence. So there was zero electricity. There was no cars. It was just the weirdest silence, and people walking around. The people that did stay were coming out of their houses in total shock. I mean, with this dazed look. It was one of the weirdest things that I've ever experienced, that it was just this eerie, silent, zero, nothing.
Yeah.
When I was expecting chaos, I was expecting people to be running around, news crews filming, hey, we're live on the scene. It was nothing. It was really weird. But when it comes to the ecology and Mother Nature, it is Mother Nature. It rebounds a lot quicker than the people do. I mean, the fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The trees grow back, the fish rebound, and it seems to be a lot easier on the animals and the flora and the fauna than it is on the people.
Scott, I don't want to leave this topic and get into some of our fishing topics here until I get your thoughts on this, because I know, as I often say, you have your pulse on this, but I thought Mark made a great point. It's not like the Cajun Army that can come after Harvey like they did and help people. Because in this case, if it was the apples to apples, Louisiana would be messed up. Mississippi would be messed up. Alabama would be messed up, and Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so much need over there that, where do you start?
Right.
like with Harvey, you know, it hit Rockport, it hit me a little bit, and I didn't have electricity. I lost a deer stand. I didn't, it wasn't as bad over here, and so first thing and then it went to Houston, and of course, epic flood.
Yeah.
And my parents' house was under, up to the light switches, and so I ended up going over there first, and it was the same thing Dean was talking about. It was kind of eerie, just trying to get over there. There wasn't any traffic. There wasn't anything like that. It was just trying to get through the roads to get there.
Yeah.
And once I got there and handled the tear out of all that mess, that's when I went over to Dean's and we started working on the kayak shack, and taking it apart. Me and Dean and Jim Dolan.
Yeah.
And I brought my dump trailer over there and we made some hauls.
And it's crazy because it's right now is the time whenever we were stripping that out. So all those pictures are popping up in the memories.
It was the 17th, wasn't it? Wasn't it September 17th?
August 27th is when it hit.
Oh, okay.
But it was, of course, the month and few weeks afterwards. And as I come across some of those, I'll post some of those up. There's pictures of me and Scott. So it blew out the porch upstairs completely. Scott brought a dump trailer. And so in a weird kind of way, because there was no windows in the house, it was real easy.
It was a benefit.
It was easy.
A favor.
It was quite easy to throw everything out the windows. But we threw the mattresses, the furniture.
We threw a couch.
We stripped every piece of sheetrock, and we threw every bit of it out the window.
All we had to do was make sure the Jim Dolan wasn't in the way when we were.
Yeah, nobody was below us.
We had one close call with him where he hollered back at us.
Hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to some fishing topics here. Unless you have something, Mark, go ahead.
Oh no, well, I'll listen to a fishing topic or two. I could talk about the hurricanes too. My house where we lived, we were in the eye of 3 hurricanes in 13 months.
Oh.
And that's with a 12 and a 13-year-old living in the house that you're not allowed to kill. And so it was
Are you sure about that? Is that a rule or a guideline?
Well, it was a serious suggestion by the wife. Probably not.
That was 2005, wasn't
it? Yeah. But with no power for a couple of weeks, that gets old for anybody.
Yeah.
But by far the worst I saw was from Andrew that went through Homestead, and it's just exactly like you guys are talking about. It was the most numbing feeling. Everybody is like zombie land.
Yeah.
You don't know where to start. And you're just there kind of numbing, and people are offering to help, but still you don't know where to start.
Yeah. As you watch those news reports that are coming, there's still the aftermath. The shock is still very real to those people. And, daily the reports are coming in and you see these people standing in their yard amongst the debris. I mean, that is what is left of their life. And when you've been through that, it's you don't soon forget it. And the people in Florida, they have experienced it from both sides, and the bottom and the top. Just they stick out there with a giant target every summer. I mean,
yep. And the weather does seem to be a little more special than ever these days.
Special's a good way to put it. Yeah. I'm sitting here listening, and of course I've experienced this as well. And I'm just kind of, wondering, we have so many listeners all over the country, and I get this question a lot from some of my friends up on the East Coast or Midwest or whatever. And I always get to say, why do you live down there? Why do you do that? Because it's gorgeous, man. Because it's what we do. And that's just part of life, It's just part of life down here.
Because it don't snow in the winter.
It doesn't snow in the winter. And Scott, I always tell people I would much rather live here than in the Midwest or the West Coast, because at least you can see a hurricane coming. You can prepare for it. More times than not, you can see it. Whereas earthquake, oh crap, it just happens. Tornado, oh crap, it just happens. At least we can see them coming,
Yeah, the funniest thing I've heard referred to hurricanes is like being stalked by a killer turtle.
Yeah.
I want to hear the
You
explanation.
can watch it coming at you for a week.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
He's a killer. Oh boy, he's a killer for
Is
sure.
he going to turn? What's he going to
That's
do?
so-
He's
but that's
turning
the
real
deal.
slow.
Oh,
Yeah, he's turning
Is he
real
going to
slow.
turn? Yeah.
He's just kind of
Yeah.
crawling around one way or the other. That is
Really.
a good one.
Yeah.
That is a
Really. I love
All
you,
right.
West Palm, but go down there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get some of our listeners want to catch some fish, and they send us questions and all that. No matter where you are in the country, we love you. But this is what happens. All right, so this one was, is it like riding a bike? Now let me explain. And I guess it was, and we've all done this. You know, you haven't fished in a bay in a long time, 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. Is it like riding a bike, going back to a bay that you haven't fished in a while? You know, what are some of the things that you maybe would want to caution people to, or is it like riding a bike? Do you try to, are all the things mostly the same? And I find this funny that I put this right after a hurricane when everything's going to change. But I think in all things being equal, Dean, if you haven't fished somewhere in a while, let's say, I don't know, Galveston or whatever, and you go back, what's your approach there? And I guess this guy's taking a vacation and he's going to a bay that he hadn't fished in a while.
For me, it's like riding a bike. Even from traveling to Florida, when we would go there, fish a place, we would learn it very well. We would go back a year later, and it was just like you were there yesterday. I guess if you pay attention a little bit, and if things sending up, but like Chocolate Bay and those places where I was raised, I mean, for many years never went there. And then when you go back, it's just like, to me, it's like you never left. Matagorda, I spent all those years fishing there. I drove away from it one day, didn't go back for over 10 years. And when I went back, it was like, it's just like I left it. So I'm sure, generally speaking, some little things change, but overall, the major categories are going to be very similar.
Mm-hmm. But you just experienced that. I don't know when the last time was, Mark, that you were down here where you fished.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You learn the pattern that, you've been doing for a long, long time. But, it's always, when I go to a place, if I'm going to fish with Scott, or like when I was fishing with Dave today, I'm fishing with another good angler. And to me, the best thing in the world, if you want to design a lure, is to be with a good angler where you can be doing something totally weird.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to control where, they can catch fish if there's going to be a decent bite going on.
Yeah.
So then you can experiment with colors, presentation, and that sort of thing, and keep learning, because I'm still addicted to fishing. And if, I'll start playing with something. If somebody starts out fishing me, well, a whole bunch, then I'll go, well, screw that prototype crap. Give me that pay. I want to catch a fish.
We'll work on that later.
This is getting old. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And Scott, there is a navigational aspect to it,
That's the first thing that came to mind when I read that. Port Mansfield, I hadn't been down there in years and years. It'd been a long time. And I had a buddy down there who'd never been down there. And I said, I got it. I got this. No problem.
Oh, I've done that. I've done
fished
that.
2 or 3 days, and we fished some areas I'd fished before. Everything was fine. And then I got this bright idea to go over onto the white sand on the east side.
Mm-hmm.
And there's these little channels that run up there. They're old oil field channels. They got spoil banks on either side. And it goes up into this white sand that's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a feeling, I'd heard some fish had been up there, so I wanted to go up there and give it a shot. It's like walking on a sidewalk. It's white sand, beautiful, great place. And so I got lined up on my spoil banks and started running up there. And it had always been about 2 to 3 feet deep. And I had a shallow sport. I'm good.
Oh,
and
I know where this is
in
going.
there. And the further I ran in there, I started looking over the side, and I realized, it ain't deep like it used to be. I don't know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, we got to get out of here. So
Yeah.
I started making a gentle turn and sliding around. And, on those tunnel boats, if you lose the water out of the tunnel, you're in trouble. And that's what happened. As I was making the turn, I lost a little water out, and that sucker sat down, and it was stuck. I mean, like hard stuff
in there. It was in there.
And so I got out and I walked over back to that channel thinking, okay, we'll just push it back over there and it'll float. And there was no change in depth from outside what should be the channel to the channel.
Yeah.
And it took us 8 hours to get off of there.
Oh boy.
Pushing 3 or 4 feet at a time and rest. 3 or 4 feet at a time and rest.
Yeah.
And I got back. I was talking to old Terry Neal down there. I called Terry and I said, man, what happened to that spot? Me and you fished that before, and it ain't the same anymore. Oh, yeah, we had a little hurricane come through a few years back, and it just moved all that white sand into that channel, and now it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
There is no channel there. You should have called me before you went.
Okay. Okay, next time.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, listen, I've done that on some of the cuts in Matagorda, Dean. You know, some of those cuts you go through in the into the I call it the ditch, you know, the intercoastal. Boy,
Well,
I learned the hard way on that.
and of course the small cuts with shifting sands, yes, those might change from month to month around here, you know, those types of areas. But you know, the big stuff is usually going to be the same. But yes, the shifting sands of time will sneak up on you.
Yeah, they will. All right, I've been looking forward to this topic because it was hilarious. Scott, I want you to tell the story. Yeah, everybody's heard of the old color chicken on a chain, right? Chicken on a boat? What is that?
One of our good friends, old Clint Bargy, he's part-time guides out of Galveston, and he's one of the best fishermen you'll ever see up there. And look at the tournament winning standings, and he's up there every time. I mean, when I was fishing tournaments, you know, he and I were always, you know, battling it out. And he's just a hell of a good guy. He's the one that brought me Whataburger out on the water one day in a kayak.
In a kayak?
Yeah, brought me me and Jason Bryant. We were out fishing, and he was coming along, getting off work, and he's going to come out there. And he said, "What do y'all need? You know, y'all need anything?" And we were stuck on some good fish. And Jason laughingly, you know, was talking to him on the phone. I, in the background, said, "I could use a Whataburger. You know, I could use a cheeseburger right now and a milkshake." And a little while later, here comes Clint paddling around the corner, and he's got Whataburger bags on the bow of his kayak. Hand delivered. But now he's been guiding now, and he's got a boat instead of a kayak. And he gets down there to launch his boat and realizes that one of his wife's chickens has stowed away inside his center console. And it's just sitting in there. His customers are getting there, and it's too late. He can't turn around and go back. He lives in Friendswood, so he's, you know, it's a good ride back. So he said, "Well, I guess, chicken, you fixing to go fishing with us." He had some really good customers. They were really cool with it, and they caught the hell out of fish that day. All their fish pictures are holding chicken. The chicken rode with them all day long in the boat and caught fish with them. And I told Clint, I said, "Now, I mean, you got to take chicken every time now, because that's your good luck charm."
Hey, bananas might be bad luck. Chickens are good luck.
Hey, apparently chicken's a good luck.
Fried chicken is damn good. I don't know about a live chicken.
Every time you say something, Dean, I try to read something into what you're saying.
Dean has a certain way with words. There's no question about
that. I would love to have chicken on the boat every day, but not clucking, crapping, and pecking on everything. But I had a kitty cat stowaway on my boat, and I got to the ramp and launched the boat, and the kitty cat jumped out. But I was close enough to the house that I rounded up the kitty cat, put him in the truck, and took him back home. Yeah. I did not have to take the kitty cat fishing with me that day.
I knew this was going to be story time, Mark. Go ahead.
I got a cat story now. I got to jump in it, man, because sure. I don't like cats. Well, I get along with them, but you know, we don't really bond together a lot. But one time I launched my boat and somebody had dumped a kitten, and I didn't care. You know, I dropped my boat in the water, got my truck, parked the truck, walked back, got in the boat. Kitten's walking around, I blow it off. I could start the engine, I put it in reverse. The cat runs and jumps in the boat. I had her for 23 years. She wouldn't die.
Why?
She wouldn't leave.
It was meant to be.
it was like she ate, Purina dry cat food. I didn't get spoiler at all, and she was good for like 21 years that way, and then a coyote tried to eat her, and I felt bad for her, and I thought she was going to die, so I started giving her some tuna fish and some cream, and so she lived for a couple more years.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
and there was another cat too, right? But she was the only one that jumped on.
Oh, that's
That
the
was
only.
it.
Yeah, that's my only cat story.
No, I'm saying, but I'm saying there was another one with it that didn't jump on.
Oh no, there was
I
only
thought you
one.
said that.
There's just one.
All right,
Maybe you
I thought
had
were talking
two.
about
But
Ed's.
mine was just one.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, I've got to go eat dinner.
Yes, sir. You go right ahead, and we appreciate you joining us.
Good seeing you guys and all that stuff. I'll try to get back over there and go Astros. I sent you that video. I was lucky enough to be on 5th row, right by the on deck.
Yeah.
There at the game, and it was funny. My sister works for this real rich guy, so we go into this dining area where all these rich people are, and some guy walks by, and I shake his hand. I go, "Hey, how you doing?" And then my brother-in-law says, "That's the mayor of Houston." I was like, "Oh no shit! Look at that guy." I didn't have a clue.
Appreciate it, man. Don't forget DOA Lures, and
Y'all take care.
and I'll tell Jan all about your recommendation. Thanks.
All right, have a good
Later,
one.
Mark.
All right,
Take
so
care, guys.
all right, so I got to tell this story that I told a while back. It's been a couple of years, but talk about things on your boat, interesting finds on your boat. Dean, I don't know if you've heard this one. I might have told you, but I know I told Mark. Scott. So I was taking a buddy fishing, and he brought a buddy, and I was actually putting in Port O'Connor, and we were putting the boat back in Port O'Connor, and here comes the county. It wasn't the game warden or anything. It was the county. And so he says, "Are you ready to launch?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Let me give you a check." I said, "Cool." And I had everything, tip top. Everything was just tip top, ready to go. I'm opening hatches, and here's this, here's that, et cetera, et cetera. And I look out of my eye, and I think it was in the fishing center there, Scott. There's a window that you can see the launch, and my buddy and his friend were like this with their eyes, covered, looking through the window at me, just saying, "Whatever you say, sir, blah, blah, blah. Here's this, here's this, here's this." And he ended up giving me one of those gold stars. They give you one. If you ever get stopped again, just show the guy this and you're good to go. Because it was so perfect. And I was opening all these boxes and everything. And so he takes off. The two guys come out of the fishing center, and they're laughing and they're sweating and they're all this. I said, "What?" Well, in the friend's tackle box, he had an entire ounce of weed. And I have never mofoed someone more in my life. And I'm like, "Yeah, you want to look in that tackle box?" "Yeah, sure." It was in his tackle box, right on top. He had an ounce of weed. I said, "First of all, why are you laying me out? And what would you have done if I had gotten stopped?" "Oh, we would have told him it was ours." "Sure you would have." Sure you would have.
He would have bailed you out, maybe.
That's what they would have done. And I'm so confident because my boat's tip top and all that. These dudes were like hiding, looking through the window, and the guy had a lid of weed basically. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And the cop, the county deputy didn't even check it. But I was like, "Yeah, that's my friend's tackle box. Go right ahead, whatever." That was one for the books right there.
He would have gave you a green star if
You would have given me an orange jumpsuit is what he would have given and an ankle bracelet. I'd have been fishing with an ankle bracelet. I will never ever forget that. Let's get to one more here. This has been a fun show. Let's get to one more here, and let's talk about. Hey, I see Mark's still listening.
I don't know. I tried to zone you out. I came in here to eat some dinner.
You hear my weed story?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. First thing I want to say is it wasn't mine. I don't know. I saw it on YouTube, but I don't know.
And I was just like, I was livid. I mean, keep in mind, this is probably 15. The rules were pretty strict still on weed back then, 15, 18 years ago. I'm like, "Sure, whatever you want." And these guys are like, "Don't get the weed. Don't get the weed. Don't find the weed." I'm like, "Good Lord." So that's what happens. All right, Mark, I'll let you have dinner, but we'll wrap up here with a couple of other things real quick.
I don't even
No.
know how to, I hit a button said leave, but it never left.
You want me to? I can let you out unless you just want to just eat dinner and listen
Is that
to
like locking the door once I get inside?
us. He doesn't know how to get out of here. You're trapped for life. You're trapped for
So
life.
that's the way you got these guys to work with.
Yes, I just keep them. They even when we're off air, they just stay on in front of their laptop. No, I'll let you go here. Have a good dinner and thanks
Hey,
again.
I always appreciate it.
All right, man. All right, so I think Dean.
I want to do the favorite client
That's
story.
insane. I think Dean brought this to our attention. Favorite clients to have on your boat. I know there's a backstory here, Dean.
I fished with the most entertaining person I have ever fished with. Out of 22 years, thousands of trips, tens of thousands of people. I love them all.
Yeah.
They're all entertaining in their own way. But Lindsay, who was on my boat for 2 days earlier this week, she absolutely loved every bird, every fish,
that's awesome.
the sky, the water, the stingrays, the cownose rays, the minnows, the birds. Did I mention the birds?
Yeah.
But she was just one of those people that was just the most enthusiastic, stood up there casting, throwing topwaters, caught some amazing fish, missed plenty of other fish, but everything about it was just one of the most enjoyable trips. And it is so fun to get out there with people like that who are there for the experience. They're not concerned with laying all the dead fish up on the nails, that dictates that, this was a good day or a bad day for us. It's about being there, loving life, experiencing a day on the water. And those make my job worth doing, man. Those are the ones that stick with you forever and ever. And there's so, there's more stories than you can remember after 22 years from all of the adventures. And I used to say back in the day, whenever I did mostly kayak trips, I didn't call myself a fishing guide. I called myself an adventure guide because it was an adventure every day. It was in that type of a trip, it's even way less about the fish and the numbers. It's absolutely the experience of sitting in a kayak, paddling yourself across some of the most beautiful water you've ever seen, the most beautiful scenery. And it was quite an adventure every single day. So yeah, whenever you do get a chance and you come across paths with those people that just absolutely love life, being there, it's quite a memorable experience. And one of the fringe benefits of my job, I have said this forever, is the cool people that I cross paths with.
Absolutely. And Scott, I fall into this category, so I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but oftentimes we consider it a quest. Like we've got to do this. We've got to catch this. We've got to go here. We've got to experience this. Nah. And we've talked about it not long ago, but every once in a while, like when we talked about it about 3 weeks ago, you just got to sit and take a deep breath. And to have someone fresh and new like that, like after the feeding frenzy, several of the volunteers, I took them out to an island for breakfast and bought some tacos and had, champagne and all this other stuff. And the whole way they were like, "Ooh, look at that, a pelican. Ooh, look at that." And you know how many pelicans we see? It's exactly what Dean was talking about.
Yeah. I had Chris on the boat here a little while back from Sawgrass, and he was just amazed by the dolphins. That we had actual dolphins that were like next to the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were right there.
Yeah.
And he's taking pictures of them, videoing them, and all that. Yeah, those kind of people, the kids are a blast. I had that picture of that little girl wanting to pet the pelican that was swimming up next to the boat the other day. Those are always fun. But some of my favorite customers are when I get two guys who've fished together for however long, 20 years, 30 years, they're buddies, and they know secrets about each other. and they rib each other from start to finish. I mean, from stepping on the boat to stepping off the boat. And those guys, that when they allow you in,
Yeah.
and you get to gig them just as hard as they're gigging each other, and they turn it around on you, and it's those days go by so fast.
Oh, it's the best.
You look down, and all of a sudden it's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock, it's 4 o'clock, whatever. You stayed longer than you intended to stay, but it was enjoyable. It was fun. You're not out there watching the clock going, man, I'm ready for this day to be over.
When are these guys going to be done?
Yeah. Those fun customers.
That's what I would say. I don't say you guys do that. I would do that.
Yeah. Now those guys make it all worthwhile. They're just when they can razz each other and nobody gets mad. They miss a fish and everybody's on them. And the whole boat's on them, and it's just fun. Yeah, that's what it's all about, being out there and having a good time. And one of the things I've done over the last few years is we all we take pictures of the guy that catches the fish.
Yeah,
we always have, always, all that. Well, I've lost a couple of good friends along the way, and I wish I had more pictures with them. We did so many things together. We hunted together, we fished together, but we never took pictures together. We took pictures of each other.
Yeah.
And so what I've started doing is like father and son trips. Son catches a fish, I make dad get in the picture.
Yeah.
Dad catches a fish, I make the son get in the picture and get the picture of the group, all of them there together with that fish. And they'll treasure those pictures a long, long time.
It's a great idea. That's something that a lot of our listeners should take advantage of. All right. But you did remind me of something. We're going to get right to what would Scott do and what would Dean do. But I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the chicken on a boat. Dean, I want you to keep an eye out for something. It's over by Lydia Ann Channel. I was fishing the other day, and I swear I came across a dolphin that had asthma.
That's not uncommon. I hear those. It sounds like they're sneezing.
It does. And it was just
what it is, they have a stuffy blowhole.
Well, I worried. I was like,
hey, wait a minute. I don't want you to glaze over stuffy blowhole.
No. If I had a nickel, for every time I had a stuffy blowhole.
I have been waiting to use stuffy blowhole in a sentence for this long, and you just want to glaze over that.
Yeah, I teed it up for you. No, I was fishing and I heard this raspy blow. I knew there were dolphin there. So I actually got worried. I said, well, maybe it's got something stuck in there, and if I can maybe help it, I'll help it. So I just kind of used the trolling motor. It got close enough not for me.
What were you going to do?
I was going to pull that stuff out. I was going to pull that stuff out. But I did see he blew it out, and it was clear. It was just like he had asthma.
I've been keeping these Kleenex on my boat for just this occasion.
This occasion, the stuffy blowhole dolphin. So you've come across those, huh?
Yes, I have heard that. And I'm so dolphins are mammals. They breathe with lungs. Why couldn't they catch a cold? I don't know, but I have heard dolphins. It sounds like they sneeze. It sounds like they're congested. Yes.
So I'm glad you got to say that, and I got to bring this up. The old stuffy blowhole. Okay. All right. Before we get out of here, what would Scott do? What would Dean do? Be on the lookout for the dolphin with asthma or a stuffy blowhole, one or the other. But I know you guys have been looking at the weather and such. What are you thinking, Scott? Where you're going to be? I know there's still some tarpon out there, but what else?
Yeah, we got a little north wind off and on for the next 2 or 3 days. That's kind of interesting. It's been super calm last few days, just dead flat out there. And I know some guys have been hammering on some tarpon. I just hadn't had a chance to get out there. Had some other stuff going. But yeah, 10 to 15. I'll be poling tomorrow. We're going to go chase redfish up shallow. And I expect to see plenty of them, all up good and shallow. Then Thursday, I'm going to be doing the tarpon thing again. We're going to fly fish for some tarpon. Then Friday, I'm back to poling again. And it's all 10 to 15. It shouldn't be too bad. The wind's just variable. It's coming from every which direction. And then the weekend, Saturday looks great. Get your fishing in on Saturday because Sunday we got a real front. Looks like gonna be a pretty good blow on Sunday with maybe some rain mixed in. So I would tell my weekend folks, get out there Friday afternoon, do a little Friday afternoon fishing prefrontal, do a little Saturday prefrontal, and then pack it up for Sunday.
Dean, what's the tide been doing? Looking like it was so damn high, man.
It's normal high. I mean, it's not where it was. It's 1.6, 1.7, but it's dropping, overnight to a much more doable thing. I like the high tide myself personally. I hear a lot of people, oh, it's got fish scattered, it's got this and that. The high tide lets me get into areas where a lot of other boats can't get to. The fish are there, and I prefer the high tide to the low tide, even though they both have their advantages. But where it was a week ago, it's dropped down 6 or 8 inches from there. So
that's about the right size.
I could still drift the fringes of a lot of those places that I want to be. And then starting tomorrow, I got a good run. I've been out of town for the last 4 days, but tomorrow I am back at it. I got me a brand new fleet of Bates reels, thanks to recommendations from our buddy Caleb McCumber and all of his ranting and raving. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to do some research and development and see if the boy is full of crap. But and it's not because he threw sideways
you already know
over the fence. It has nothing to do with the fact that he cheated at the feeding frenzy and that there was questionable behavior from the chairman of the board.
Hey, that's me.
Of casting contest. But no, I got a brand new. I got the hundos and the goats, and I got them on brand new Waterloo rods. I'm like a little kid on Christmas morning out there tomorrow on my new little bicycle. I can't wait. I can't wait to test them out. So the next 4 days look good. And it's weird that Scott would say that because the forecast is not too frightening for the front that's coming in. I mean, on my forecast for here, nothing is over 15 to 18 at the most. So, I mean, that's one of those things you just got to watch it day by day. You can't trust it 4 days out.
No.
And we'll see how it works out. But hopefully I get all my days in because I got 5 days in a row of people that want to go fishing.
Terrific.
I got Sunday at 20 gusting to 30.
Well, I hope I'm right and you're wrong.
We'll pick the best forecast.
That's what I do. I like mine better, so I'm going with mine.
All right. Hey, fun show, a little happy hour show this week. We'll be back to 3:30 p.m. live and posting by about 6:30 next week. But I guess we should all say go Astros. They need the help. They need all the help they can get after today. But appreciate everybody who was listening and stayed with us at 6 p.m. Don't forget to book Dean and book Scott and book Caleb, who had an out-of-town game today, so we didn't get to join us. But really appreciate you guys. Great interaction, great topics we didn't even get to, so we'll be hot and heavy next week as well. You guys enjoy the weekend. Have a great time. Be safe, and we will talk to you next time.